Hello friends, myself Vikas Shakya and this is my channel Vartita Learning Platform, and in this channel I'm going to start one more playlist for you to discuss about the MVC applications in .NET. So I will use C#.NET for the coding, and I will let you know that how we can create an MVC application practically. It will be a practical session, and during the practical session I will keep you telling about the various aspects, various concepts related to MVC. So let's start that one. So I have this Visual Studio 2019 and I have installed this 2019 preview as well. Why I have installed preview? The reason is that the other versions of Visual Studio 2019, like professional versions or enterprise versions, there was an issue with those versions, and I have this limited time license for this Visual Studio 2019, and it's a free version, so that's why I don't have much facilities. So if you are similarly using your Visual Studio 2019, then I would suggest that you should install this Visual Studio 2019 preview. Basically, the problem was with the earlier version of Visual Studio 2019 was like if you wanted to create an MVC application, and in that case, if you create a form, then that form was not visible. You will not be able to see the form. The controls will not be visible. So I just installed this Visual Studio 2019 preview. So let's create one project related to MVC. So for this, you need to select ASP.NET Web Application, and this should be in C Sharp, and just give it a name, go to next, and just write the name here, demo, yeah, demo MVC app. Okay, so I'm going to select the location and I'm just going to create it. Oh, it is already there, so there is one more project with the same name. Just give it a name, test MVC demo. Okay, now it should be created. I had that project earlier, so just select MVC here and just keep this selected, configure for HTTPS. If you don't want this HTTPS support, you can uncheck it, but let's leave it. Okay, so let's just create it. Just taking some time. My system is a bit slow today. Now I think it should have been created. Yes, this has been created. Now let's see what are the various components in MVC application. So MVC stands for model, view, and controller. Let's see where are these. Okay, here is the model. Okay, and here is the view class, not class. Basically, these are the various locations inside your application. If you open this, if you go to the path, open file and filter explorer, then you will be able to see various folders. For model, you will see a model folder. For the controllers, you will see controller folder, and for view, you will see a view folder. Okay, so there are various folders, and in MVC application, based on these folders, the path which is requested, any resource which is requested over the network is prepared. What does that mean? I will let you know. Okay, so first of all, let's discuss what does this mean. What does this mean by model? What does it mean by controller? And what does it mean by views? Well, model stands for the data or the objects that your MVC application or your web application is going to display to the clients. Okay, so this is just the data or the object and the behavior of the objects which are defined inside a class. So inside the model, we just write those classes which will only contain data, which will provide you the data through some function calls, which will generate the data, which will fetch the data from database and will keep it with themselves, and then that data will be used to display on the views. Okay, so apart from model, we have views. So if we talk about views, then view is nothing but the display, just like this is a display. So the HTML page which is displayed to the user, the data which is displayed along with the HTML page, that is called a view. Okay, so view is the representation of that data which is available in the model, right? So model contains objects and it defines the behavior of the objects as well, and view contains the data which is available in the model. Okay, and we arrange that data in different views. Okay, and what is the controller? Controller basically connects model and view. Whatever data is there in the model, you need to display it to view, but model is a separate class, views are separate classes. So in between these two classes, we put a controller class. Okay, so controller class, the responsibility of the controller class is to take the data from model and give it to view. Okay, take it from model and give it to view. So controller has various methods which are written there in the controller class, and the work of those classes or the controller objects is to find out the data and give it to view. And what data it will find out? It will depend on the kind of request the client has placed, right? In the HTTP in the address bar of your this is the Chrome. In the address bar, you put something like this: HTTP localhost, and then you put like localhost, or you put like something like this: get just like movies and get movies, something like this. You write in the address bar. Okay, so this address bar indicates whatever request has been placed by the client. Is this request is given to the controller. This request is passed to the controller, and the controller decides that how and which method I need to call to fulfill the particular request that has came. But again, this controller is not the one who directly receives the client request. Okay, this is received by the router config.cs. You can see this class. This is the router config class, and inside this class we have the route mapping. So here it writes like the name is default, and then this has given the format of the URL request. So the format is like the name of the controller, and then the name of the action, and then the ID, any argument. Okay, any argument which you need to provide from the customer, right? Suppose sometimes some client want to only see the data which is particular to a particular year, which is related to a particular year, or which is related to a particular condition. Like I just want to see the data whose name starts, I just want to see the name of those customers whose name starts with T or whose name starts with V. Okay, so in that case, this ID is useful. You can provide the uh, argument in the for the action, right? Now let's see what does this controller, action, and ID means. So I will just explain one by one practically. Okay, so we are just going to create the model, view, and controller for the demonstration. Okay, so I hope you understood this. What is the purpose of this class, root config.cs? This root config.cs decides that which controller it need to call and which function inside the controller it need to call. Okay, what does this mean? Let us understand it practically. Okay, so come to the model, just create one class. I'm going to just create a simple class, which is a student class, student data. And in this student data, I'm just going to add two properties, one property only, student name and student roll number. Two properties I will add. So for that, I just need to create public class student, and here I'm just going to provide int ID, and make it public for now. I'm just creating this program for demonstration purpose, so don't worry about why I've created it as public or why I have created it private. So here I'm going to give a name here. Okay, so I'm just going to create a list here of students, and I'm just going to give it the name LST student. Okay, and this will be a property, get and set. This will be a property, it will be a public property. Property means you can create an object of this class and then you can just put a dot and just after the dot just put this LST student and you will be able to get this property and all the list of students will be available to you. Now here I'm going to write one method which will populate it. Create list of students. Okay, so here I'm just going to write the program for filling the data, new list student, and I'm just going to put the name and IDs. I will create 3 students, so I'm just going to create student st is equal to new student and st dot id is equal to 1001 and then st dot name is equal to Ramit. Okay, and I just want to add this to the student list. I just added st to here. Now I just want to create one more student. Just copy it, paste it here, and give it 2, and then Sumit Patwari, and then just write this. Again, just copy it, paste it here, give it 1003, and give it Amit Jha. Okay, so these are the 3 students which have been added to this list, and we can get the list of students using LST student property. Okay, so here you just remember the name of the class, which is the model, and this is the student class. Okay, so I have created the model. Model is something which contains the data, so and which manages the data. Just like here, I don't have any database connection, so I have created it using simple dummy data. Okay, so we can get this data from database as well, but as of now I don't have any database, so for the demonstration purpose I'm just using the dummy data here. Okay, now this model contains the object and the behavior of the object. Okay, you can define many methods here. You can have different the design patterns. You can have different design patterns. You can have different methods to connect to the database and fetch the data. But these classes will be totally independent of any other class. These classes will not contain any code which should display the data or which should control or which should provide the responsibility which controller or any other class provides. Okay, so it will just contain the data. Okay, so we are ready with the model. Now let's go to the controller. I'm just going to add a controller, add controller, and just select this MVC controller empty. These are other kind of controllers, but just as of now, just need to select this one, MVC5 controller. Just add it, and here give the name like student data controller. Just remember this name, student data. Okay. Forget about this controller. Although the class will be created with this name only, student class, student data controller. But when you will be putting the request from the browser, then you just need to pass the name as student data. And I will let you know how that is passed. Okay, so just create this controller class. Okay, so I have created student data controller class. Now let's go to the view, and as soon as you have created the student data controller, you can see that inside the view, under the view, you can also see a new folder with student data name. Okay, that's why I was telling you, like, just remember this. Although the class will be created with student data controller, but the main thing is this student data. So with this name, view has been created. A folder inside the view has been created. Now what we will do with this view, I will let you know later. But as of now, just update this student data controller class. So here you can see, like, I have created this index method. So what I will do here, I will just rename it, and I will give the name like show the student details. Okay, so I have written this method here. Okay, so this ActionResult is the base class for all the results that are returned to the view. There are many other classes which have been inherited from this ActionResult, but as of now, we just need to focus on this ActionResult. In the forthcoming lectures, I will just let you know what are the other classes related to the ActionResult, which have been inherited from the ActionResults. Okay, so here I have written the method show that student detail. You also need to remember the name of this method. Why? I will let you know. You understood the concept of this student data and this folder inside the student data. Okay, but now I have this one, show the student detail. I have written this method, and this method also has some significance. It's most significant, basically, not some significance, right? So here I'm just going to write our logic, that what I will return inside the view. So just write student data. This was the class student data, st data is equal to new student data. I have created the object, and now s data dot create list of students. I have called this function create list of students. Okay, so here I'm just creating student data class object, and then I'm just calling the create list of students function. And what this function will do, this function will simply initialize the LST student with various student data. Okay, so let's go back. Now I have just initialized everything inside this function, and I'm just going to pass this to view. And that's it. Whatever data we want to present to view, this controller method has provided it to the view. Okay, but now we need to find out a suitable view which will display this, right? So how we will write that view? You can see that here is the student data class, student data folder created here, and here I have created a method student show the student details. So please remember that whenever you want to display the data, you just need to create a view with the same name. So the student detail. I need to create a view inside this student data with this name. So the student detail. So I'm just going to create it like add and view. And what is the name? Show the student detail. Show the student detail. Right? And I don't want to create any partial view. What is a partial view? If you know, that's okay. If you don't know, in coming lectures, I will let you know. Okay, so here it is asking me to choose a layout. So by default, all the layouts are inside the shared folder under the view folder. So this is the shared layout. So just select this layout.chtml and just add it. Just remember, this should be the same name as the method name inside the controller method, inside the controller class. Okay, now it has given me a page where I can show the details. Okay. Okay, so before I display the data, I just need to include the class, the model class. So for including the model class, you need to provide this attribute @model. Please remember this M should be in small, right? It should be all small case letters, model. And then just give the fully qualified name of the class, starting from the namespace. Okay, so test MVC app. This is the application name, and then we have models, and inside the models we have student. Not a student, basically it's a student class, student data. This was the class which we are returning from here. If you go back to this student data controller, then what we are returning? We are returning student data. So whatever we are returning, we have to create a view of this name, and inside that we have to just import that model. Okay, I just placed a semicolon here. You don't need to put any semicolon here. Okay, so here is the bag view title. If you want to change the title, just do like this, student detail, and here it's the heading. Now showing the details of students, right? So I have just imported this student data, and to import it, you just need to use this @model attribute, and then you need to provide the fully qualified class name. Here it will be test MVC app, which is our um, application name, and then inside this namespace, this is basically the namespace, and inside this namespace there is a models class, and inside the model class we have student data. Okay, so if we go to the model, so yes, there is a namespace called models. The top level namespace is test MVC app, and then we have this models app. And then if we go to the controller, then test MVC.controllers, right? But we need the data from where? We need the data from student data. So we just include this test MVC app.models dot student data. Okay, so here I have provided it like student data, and now I'm just going to display the name of all the students in a table. So what I will do, I'm just going to write a table here, table, and I just want to show the border. Border is equal to 1, and then, sorry, then I just want to give the column names, tr, and tr means the table row, and then td. When we talk about td, then I just need to provide the width of the td table data. I'm putting it 150, and here I'm just going to give the roll number, but in bold. I want to make it bold, so I just give it roll number, which is the unique ID. Okay, and after that, I just need to write td another column, width is equal to 150 again, and then I just need to put again this in the second column, student name. Okay, so this is the first table row which will be there, and now rest of the rows will be the name of the students. So what I will do, I have to include the code of C#.NET here, right? So for that I need to use this attribute @, and then for each, I will iterate for each student data, right? So for each var st in where model dot lst student. Okay, so what I have done here, I have created a variable with name st, and this will keep looping in this lst student. This lst student has been provided by this student data class, right? So if you have to access this student data class, then you just need to write model.lst student. As soon as you write this model keyword, and after that you put a dot, you will be able to see all those data members, all those public data members, which are available through this student data class, right? So this LST student is available, and that has already been filled by the controller, right? So since that will be filled by the controller when a new request will be created, so this LST student data is available. Okay, so let's see what we can do with this. I'm just going to create new rows. Every time, for every student, a new row will be created. And what will that contain? At the rate st dot id. First I'm printing the id. You can see here in first row I'm going to print the id, which is the roll number, and then I'm just going to print the name of the student at the rate st dot name. Okay, and that's it. Wherever you have to write any C# code or any code which is not HTML specific, not JavaScript specific, and you have to write the script in C# language, you just need to put this at the rate. And after that, the syntax will be available for C# code, right? So these kind of views which can understand this at the rate and this language, this scripting language using these attributes, these kind of views are known as the razor views. RAZOR views. Razor views. So this is the razor engine which used to elaborate and basically expand these at the rate and these piece of code, right? So it converts, the razor view engine converts it into the appropriate data before presenting it to the client. Okay, so we have done everything. So now let me show you in this root config what I was trying to say. It says that controller, you need to pass the controller name, then you need to pass the action name, and then you need to pass the ID. Let us map here in student data controller. So this will be this student data, right? This student data is the controller, right? And then slash show the student detail. And then you don't need to provide any ID because as of now I am not providing any arguments. If you are going to provide any arguments inside this function, then only you will use that ID. So that ID here in this URL format is an optional parameter, right? If you don't want to provide any ID, you don't provide it. You just give it like this, and ID is optional. But this controller and action, these two things are not optional. You must need to provide them. So if we go here, student data controller, then student data is the controller class name, and show the student details is the name of the view, right? So whenever you will put a request in the address bar, then what should be the format of that? The format should be something like this: http, and there will be URL, and then there will be student data. Remember, student data, not controller, only the name of the controller class. Student data controller, but you just omit the controller because it goes here. Inside the view, it goes here, student data. You need to remember this. Wherever your HTML file has been placed, you just need to remember the name of that particular folder. And this particular folder gets created as soon as you create a controller. So controller is removed from the name, just the student data is created here under the view whenever you create a controller class. And then you have created a view here. So student data, and then it will be like show the student details. That's it. This will be the complete format if you have to access this particular student detail which has been given here, right? So let's go to here, just compile it, build it, and let's run it. When I run it, it will present you with the default page. Since I have not provided here any of the controller and view name, so it will go to the default page. And where that default has been given, that default has been given inside the route config.cs. You can see that if you have not provided any controller or any action, then what will be the controller? Home, and then it will be index. So it will go to home index. So index.html contains this data. This data. So this means that this, whatever this has been displayed, that is the content of index.html, because I have not provided any controller and any view. But now I'm going to provide a controller. And what is the name of the controller? Student data. And then what is the name of the view? The name of the view was show the student details. So I will just copy it from here. Sorry, and then I will put it here. Show the student details. Okay. So now you can see that all the data taken from the class has been from the object has been taken by the view, and it has been displayed here. Okay, so I think that's enough for today, and in next lecture I will let you know how to pass the ID, how to implement something where you want to see the details of a particular student. And apart from that, in the coming sections we will discuss about the entity framework, where you can create objects based on the database tables, and vice versa. Okay, so this is enough for today, and before I close it, I would like you to request, like, just like my channel, subscribe my channel, and share my videos, and you will be able to get number of things on my channel. Okay, so you can see that there are uh, Python as well. There are some algorithm sections as well. There are some playlists for algorithms. There are some playlists for C programming as well. So here you will be able to find out many stuff which will help you. Okay, so just like it, subscribe it, and let me know if anything else I can add. And have a nice day, and bye bye.